Good morning. Welcome to Lakewood's Next Daily Devotions. It's Wednesday. We're looking at Matthew chapter 28, and I'm going to read verses 11 through 15 with you. While they were going, behold, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priest all that had taken place in regards to the resurrection of Jesus. And when they had assembled with the elders and taken counsel, they gave a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and said, "Tell people that his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So they took the money and did as they were directed. And this story has been spread among the Jews to this day. It's kind of interesting here in Matthew 28 to kind of get after the resurrection as they are running back to tell the disciples that we kind of then get this description of kind of what happens on the other side of things. The guards who were watching over the tomb, they go back and they tell them everything that had happened. And they kind of all put their heads together and decide that we've got to come up with a reason. We got to come up with an excuse about what happened. And so they decide to pay the guards and tell them to tell everybody that the disciples came by night and stole Jesus' body. You know, that brings up kind of an interesting thought process for all of us just to think about. Sometimes maybe you've grown up in church for so long that maybe you don't even think about some of the excuses or other answers to the idea of the resurrection. Maybe you don't think about that so much, but through the years, there's been all kinds of things that have come up to try to explain away the resurrection. And as we see here in the text, the first obvious one is to tell people that the disciples came and stole the body. Some of the other alternative explanations is one's called the swoon theory, which makes me laugh, but the idea is simply that Jesus never died. He just swooned, if you will, while he was on the cross. They took him down early. They put him in the tomb. Being in the tomb for a day and a half to 2 days, or however long that exactly was, he revived. And he pushed his way out of the tomb and then went and told everybody that he had resurrected. That was called the swoon theory. And I'm not going to spend really any time trying to defend the swoon theory. It doesn't hold much water. There was the idea that the women and the disciples went to the wrong tomb that morning. And they went to an empty tomb. And there was no body, and so they began to tell everybody that he had resurrected. Well, again, the idea that they would go to a wrong tomb, or the idea that Pilate or anyone would have not just produced Jesus' body and said, "Hey, he's right here. You guys just went to the wrong place." There's the idea that the appearances of Jesus after the resurrections were all just simply hallucinations. And yet one of the things that we would say about hallucinations is that we know that Jesus appeared up to 500 people at one time, and 500 people don't have the same hallucination at one time. But throughout history, there's been a lot of different, people would try to come up with some kind of alternative to the resurrection. But I would encourage you to think about, why do you believe in the resurrection? What is it about the resurrection that why have you made the decision to believe in the resurrection? I'd simply share one, probably the most impressive or my favorite explanation that comes from historical context, is the idea of the disciples and the way that they reacted and the way they lived their life after the resurrection of Jesus is a great proof to me of Jesus resurrected. They went from fearful to courageous. They lived out their life in a tremendously courageous way, and most all of them ended up dying martyr's death. And what gave them the courage to live that way after such a devastating event like the crucifixion, what gave them that courage was seeing a resurrected Jesus after the fact. So I encourage you, think through logically, not that you're ever going to 100% prove anything, but think through logically. Have a reason for what you believe. So I encourage you to explore that as you think about the resurrection. I'll see you tomorrow morning.